Pucci.
Here.
Stephen Coyle.
Here.
Andy Selhertz.
Here.
Matt Mosley.
Here.
Aaron Borowski.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Will everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And this evening, Mayor Van Kirk will offer opening remarks.
Thank you, Council President. According to the United States Census Bureau, there were approximately 41 million Americans who have served in the armed forces over the course of our nation's history. Today, there are approximately 18 million veterans living in the United States. As time continues to separate us from our world's major wars, the number of living veterans continues to decline. These fine men and women are worthy of our respect and admiration. America is presently focused on a presidential election, with Election Day taking place next Tuesday. But the following Monday, November 11th, we will mark Veterans Day. As we go to the polls once again to make our civil voice heard, please take a moment to remember and be thankful for those who served to protect that right for our republic. Would you please join me in a moment of silence as we remember both veterans living and those that have passed on to protect our freedoms. Thank you.
We have minutes to approve from our meeting of October 15th. Any corrections?
May it be recognized?
Yes.
Just a couple corrections of my name again. Page 4, after legislation, there's a few times where my name is misspelled.
Okay, any others? We need a motion to approve.
May I
as-
be recognized?
Yes.
Yeah, myself as well.
Okay.
In my report, toy collection bin, it's spelled T-Y, not T-O-Y. That was the only thing I noticed.
Oh. Okay, anything else? We need a motion to approve as amended, please.
So moved.
Second.
To approve the minutes as amended, Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Before we start, I would like to announce that our next council meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 12th, and that's because our regular meeting would fall on Veterans Day holiday, and City Hall is closed on Monday, November 11th. At this time, we'll have our first public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say pertaining to a legislative item on the agenda, please step forward, state your name and address, and you will be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And this evening, we do have the representatives here, the developer and the home builder, regarding the city property we're going to sell for townhomes. So because that pertains to Resolution 2024-16, which is on our agenda this evening, they will stay through our first public session. So if there's anyone that has anything they'd like to say, make a comment, or if they would like to ask questions, now would be the time to do that.
Cindy Woody, 4164 Spring Crest Drive. Good evening. I really did not have anything too much prepared because I kind of feel that the passing of the continuation for going forward with the townhomes is pretty much on third reading, and it's going to pass. However, I would like to just say this. First of all, I am not against developing the city. I do believe that's a good thing. However, I do not feel that townhomes are the answer, especially on Memphis by North Amber. We are going to remove a whole sky. We will no longer see 3 stories. I mean, there are going to be 24 of them crammed in together. I just don't think it's right for Brooklyn. Further down on Memphis, perhaps. I just don't care for it. I know a lot of other residents have voiced their thoughts to me as well. I'm not a fan of Ryan Homes. I did a little research. They are owned and they operate under the NVR Inc., which is not accredited by the BBB. In other research, Ryan Homes, there's 88% of people who have purchased Ryan Homes gave them a 1-star rating as opposed to 5% who've only given them a 5-star rating. I have people I've spoken to who have purchased Ryan Homes. They're not happy with them. After 8 years, 10 years, still having problems. Again, I don't object to developing in the city. I just don't think this is right for Brooklyn. I know that we've talked about this for many years. I know it's mostly council speaking. There are quite a few residents who are not happy about this process with the 3 stories and so on and so forth. I could go on and on with examples. I know that, we have people who are happy because they believe that it's going to reduce the commute to work and so on and so forth. I did some research as far as that goes. Consumer Reports is stating majority of Americans work from home now. In 2025, they're predicting 25 million people will be working from home. So I'm not quite sure how a work commute is playing into this. Same thing with families. I mean, as a mom, I was a mom. When my kids were little, my son was little, the last thing I want to do is have to pack up a stroller, a diaper bag, snacks, this and that. And then, yes, we're going to have a wonderful park. I don't want to have to pack all that up and go to a park to have a backyard for my child to play in. I mean, there's no yards, there's no driveways. I just don't see the benefits of this process for these townhomes. So I'm not quite sure what niche we're trying to attract. I know in Tremont, they've built bunches of 3-story townhomes and row homes and so on and so forth. And actually, as of right now, the people in Tremont are saying, stop. Please stop building more, because you're taking away from what the era of Tremont was. They've built row homes, they've built townhomes, they want to continue to build more. And they're saying, just stop, because you're ruining the skyscapes, you're ruining the feel of what it is. So these are just my thoughts. Again, I know that we'll probably move forward with it, but those are just my thoughts, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say relating to legislative items on our agenda? Okay, we'll move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. And I'll start with the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee did meet earlier this evening at 6 p.m. This is a public meeting. All are invited to attend. And we addressed the following pieces of legislation. Resolution 2024-16, which is up for third reading and adoption, authorizing the mayor to enter into a real property purchase agreement with Brooklyn Rabbit Run LLC for the sale and purchase of 2 acres of vacant land located at 8707 Memphis Avenue, part of permanent parcel number 432-21-074, and the real property consisting of approximately 1.1 acres of vacant land locating on Memphis Avenue, east of North Amber Road, permanent parcel numbers 431-22-001, 002, 003, 004, 006, 007, 008, and 009, and declaring an emergency. And the Finance Committee did recommend adopting this. And there have been some, I think, very good significant changes since our last reading. The most important one to me is the deed restriction that prohibited them being rentals. Before had a sunset, it would have ended after 20 years, and that has been removed. The other thing is for residents who purchase this home, they will be eligible for our 35% tax abatement on the property tax, on the difference between what it's valued at prior to building versus once the home is up. And that's for the residents who purchase those homes. We also addressed Resolution 2024-20, which is up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules. And that's assessing unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations of Section 521.14 of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. These are there's basically 31 charges. The city had to cut the grass on these properties, and this will allow us to put these charges on the tax duplicate so that we can recoup these costs. Ordinance 2024-23, which is up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules, accepting the medical insurance renewal from Medical Mutual of Ohio, MMO, for medical insurance coverage for eligible employees from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. And then ordinance 2024-25, which is on first reading with a request to suspend the rules, authorizing the updated capital improvement plan for 2024. This increases the ice rink capital budget by $31,000 for our balcony restroom renovation project. This relates to original plumbing that was in pretty bad shape and also some ADA modifications. The Committee of the Whole met at 6:15, and in addition to recommending passage of the same legislation that I just reported on at the Finance Committee, we addressed the following additional pieces of legislation. Ordinance 2024-21, which is on second reading, amending Section 539.16 of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to revise the regulations over use of park and athletic spaces. And we do have a substitution ordinance that we recommended council to accept. Basically, we had some minor language change to clarify that if it's a group of people not looking for exclusive use, they still will be able to use the parks. And the 7-day notice or application was revised down to 5 days. We also have we'll be voting on a substitution for ordinance 2024-22, which is on second reading, and that's amending Chapter 148 of the Domestic Abuse Commission of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to revise the name, duties, and composition of the commission. The change was that the police chief will appoint a liaison from the police department, and that person will be a non-voting member of the commission. Under new business, Resolution 2024-21 on first reading with a request to suspend the rules, a resolution approving an easement with Walter and Loretta Parker for the installation of a city sign and landscaping improvements on the property located at 7301 Memphis Avenue, permanent parcel 432-25-005. And this is at Wally's Auto at the corner of Memphis and Ridge. And they are providing us with an easement. We're going to put some city signage there and also landscaping. Resolution 2024-22, which is on first reading with a request to suspend the rules, approving an easement with Ferris Realty Limited for the installation and maintenance of landscaping improvements on the property located on Memphis Avenue, permanent parcel 431-05-007. And this would be the property as you enter the city from Lindale. It would be on your right side, and we're going to clear all that out and beautify that area. And those were the only additional pieces of legislation not already addressed in the finance report. We'll move on to the Recreation Board. Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Brooklyn Senior Center activities for November include November 1st, coffee with the mayor, 9 a.m. November 6th, pizza and movie, 1 p.m., free. November 7th, United Healthcare Medicare speaker at 11 a.m. November 11th, closed for Veterans Day. November 13th, bingo, 1 p.m., the Avenue. November 15th, Thanksgiving luncheon, 12 p.m., cost $20. Please register by November 8th. November 20th, mystery lunch, meet at the Senior Center at 11:30 a.m. Register is now open, cost $3. November 22nd, bingo, 1 p.m. with Spry Senior. November 26th, United Healthcare, Medicare speaker at 11 a.m. 2 days in a row, 2 different days. November 26th, bingo, 1 p.m., Brooklyn Point. Closed November 28th and 29th, Thanksgiving. Next Recreation Board meeting will be held on November 18th in the Rec Center Meeting Room at 7 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is the Domestic Abuse Commission, Councilman Borowski.
Thank you, Council President. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. First established in 1989, October has been a month to recognize and acknowledge victims and survivors of domestic violence, and for it to be a month to give a voice to those affected by it. Together, we can and should strengthen and encourage survivors to reclaim their lives and to advocate and push for policies that protect and support them in our communities. That is the goal of this new ordinance that has been introduced through council to update the Domestic Abuse Commission. By doing so, we can help to give a voice to those that live in Brooklyn that have been affected by domestic violence so they can reclaim who they once were in light of these tough and tragic circumstances. The number to the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission, Councilman Coyle.
Good evening. Be advised that the City of Brooklyn has scheduled a Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 6th at 6 p.m. in council chambers to discuss a referral from City Council for proposed ordinance 2024-17, amending the Planning and Zoning Code of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to regulate certain medical marijuana and adult use cannabis facilities in the city. And they'll also be there to discuss an application for a conditional use and preliminary site plan approval to open a Clean Express Auto Wash at 10260 Brook Park Road, a general business district. And then the Board of Zoning Appeals met on Thursday, October 17th to hear the following: an appeal request from Gateway Park of 11111 Memphis Avenue regarding vacant property registration and fees, and this item was deferred. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is School Board Liaison, Councilman Mosley.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The school board met at the regularly scheduled meeting on October 15th. I was not able to report on that meeting because of our own council meeting being on the same day. There was a very in-depth presentation from the administrative team on how our school system was graded by the state of Ohio. I highly encourage everyone to watch that to understand that our school system is not only a great system, but one that's also improving every year. Coming up on November 6th, there will be another community information session at 6 p.m. in the auditorium. The architect for the upcoming projects derived from the bond issue will be there along with school leadership to answer questions and share information. I want everybody to know that their next work session will be out at Polaris in Middleburg Heights instead of the regular treasurer's office. There's some projects going on and they want to get some eyes on the school themselves. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to reports of council, and this evening we begin with Councilman Grodick.
Thank you. First, I would like to take a moment to thank Director Raguse. I think normally I'm much farther down, and I don't want to be redundant when I thank you for the budget meeting, and this time I'm first, so I get to be the first one to give you thanks. I can't imagine the hours that it takes, and I will be the first to admit that finance is not my forte. Second grade math is sometimes a struggle for me. You make it very easy and actually pretty pleasant. It's exciting to see where we're going. It's exciting to see what the next 5 years have planned out. I appreciate all the directors and the chiefs. I'm sure that somewhere along the line, there's a lot of give and take in those meetings that happen prior to the budget that were presented. Maybe it would be fun to be a fly on some of those walls to see that. But last week's was a great meeting, and again, and so I'm glad that I get to be the first one to say thank you this time. I'd also like to say thank you to the mayor for meeting with me and being very open to my suggestions on the ordinance that we have coming up on the parks. It was the permits, not really the parks. I appreciate the open-mindedness and also explanations that you provided to me on some of the thoughts that you and Director Aguzzi had, or sorry, Jack, Abrizi had when you put it together. I appreciate that extra time too. And since I am the first one up, I will be the first one to remind you that November 5th is Election Day. I'm going to say that the polls are open 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Maybe many of you know it, but I often will get those times mixed up. So just a quick reminder that if you are voting on Election Day, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Also, many of you know I'm a big advocate of voting early. It's so easy from here in Brooklyn. It's like 3 right-hand turns, and you're there. This week started the extended hours, so tomorrow's the longest. You can vote all the way till 8:30 p.m. downtown. It also will have Saturday and Sunday hours. Saturday is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Sunday is 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tomorrow is also the last day. There are many people in Brooklyn who like to vote by mail, so if you haven't already requested your ballot, tomorrow at 8 p.m., I think I saw, is the last day to get that. So vote early, vote on the day, just vote. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Coyle.
Good evening again, everyone. Last Monday, council had the opportunity to attend our first budget work session of the year, like Councilwoman Grodick said. I'd like to thank Tom Raguse, the mayor, and our directors and chiefs for their hard work in putting together all of the presentations and requests for funds in the coming year. There's a lot of exciting changes and upgrades in our future, and I am looking forward to seeing many of these ideas coming to fruition. And like Sue said, just a reminder that we're a little over a week away from November's general election. Polling locations will be open 6:30 to 7:30 on Tuesday, November 5th. If you're looking to vote early, the address for Cuyahoga County Board of Elections is 2925 Euclid Avenue, and there's parking all around down there. There's many signs pointing you to where to go. And I know Sue mentioned most of the times, but so Wednesday through Friday this week is 7:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then when voting, you will be required to provide one form of acceptable identification. That's either an Ohio driver's license. Just note that the Apple's digital ID is not accepted yet. An Ohio state ID, an interim ID issued from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, a U.S. passport or passport card, a military U.S. ID card, an Ohio National Guard ID card, or U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs ID card. Those are all accepted. And then lastly, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy Halloween. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Selchers.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to both Chief Melky and Chief Paul and their respective staffs for the work they do day in and day out around the clock to help our residents of Brooklyn be safe. And in addition to those that come to our city of Brooklyn to come to work, shop, and play here, October 28th is National First Responders Day to honor the men and women who act quickly when an emergency is at hand. Thank you also goes out to Rachel, Maria, Jack, and everybody else that was involved with this past Thursday's trick-or-treat event at the Brooklyn Memorial Park. It was a fun evening. I believe there was close to 250 children that were signed up for this event. Agree with Stephen and with Sue with the effort that Tom put into the financial discussions that we had last Monday. He always likes to take a conservative approach, but also gives you options. So it's definitely an interesting experience to go through. And yeah, it's a little bit more than second grade math, but it was good. So, and then speaking of fun, Fright Night, Fright at First Sight. Show us how you haunt your house and send email pic to HalloweenHouseContest@brooklynohio.gov. Please include your name and address. Prizes will be awarded. Deadline to enter is through this Wednesday, October 30th, and we'll pick out some winners and post them on our social media. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Mosley.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Ruguse, and all the directors for a smooth budget session. I would like to remind everybody that our service department has started leaf pickup. All you have to do is rake or blow your leaves to your tree lawn, and they will be picked up. Please don't blow them into the street. Aside from the cars driving by making a huge mess, they will clog our sewer system and cause flooding. Just be cognizant of that when you're cleaning up. Also, nobody's mentioned it yet, but November 1st, our parking ban starts again, so please do not park on the street. Chief Milky and the patrolmen are pretty generous that first week with reminders, but after that, you will get a ticket. Halloween is this Thursday. There are going to be a ton of people and children out walking around. I know our police department will be keeping an eye out, but please stay vigilant and stay safe. If you have not heard, voting day is next Tuesday, and I want to encourage everyone to get out and vote. It's a presidential election, so there's usually a higher turnout. However, there are many other things on the ballot, and I encourage everybody to do their research and vote how you see fit. Something very exciting coming up is the grand opening of our new library across the street. I drive by the library every day, and it's exciting to see that it's very near completion. The grand opening is on the 16th of November, and I plan to be there. I think there's going to be a few other of us up there. And lastly, I want to wish every veteran out there a happy Veterans Day. We are forever indebted to your selfless sacrifice. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Borowski.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Brooklyn. Tonight, I wanted to take the time to say thank you to those that were able to attend and work the recent trick-or-treat event that the city hosted this past week. And to remind those that may be interested in donating, there is a Toys for Tots donation bin now set up in the hall outside council chambers, and it will remain there through December 3rd. I'd like to also say thank you to all of the directors, the mayor on the budget session preparation. As always, a fantastic job. And to follow the mayor's earlier comments and Councilman Mosley's, thank you to all those veterans that have served. I'm the son of a veteran, brother to 2 veterans. We are who we are as a nation because of them. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, Andy Selhertz went through the Brooklyn's fright at first sight Halloween, so I won't go through that. I just wish everybody a happy and safe Halloween. Ridge Road crack sealing. I know I've mentioned this numerous times already, and I'm going to have to go to the mayor on this one. I don't know if the county or the city is going to do something with Ridge Road because it is cracking up. It's a shame we put that kind of money in that street, caused all that construction, all that dust that I got calls from residents, and the whole street's going down the tubes. It is. It's cracking up. It's not even a laughing matter because we spend a ton of taxpayers' money into that street. And something's got to be, Mayor, something's got to be done when it comes to crack sealing that street. I mean, I hate to bring up cities, but Independence does a fine job. If you take a look at Rockside Road and Route 21, they keep up them streets unbelievably. There isn't a crack. As soon as there's a crack that's comes alive, they seal it immediately. That's what, whoever's crack sealing those streets over there, I don't know who it is doing a good job. We need the same thing on Ridge Road. I don't care how many hours we have to put in that street because it costs a lot of money to go full depth all the way down Ridge Road and then let it go. It's just, it's mind-boggling to me. We got to do something with it. This year's election, November 5th, make sure everybody gets out and vote is very, very important. And the second thing I got is 2416, these townhouses. I've had residents on the floor and talk to me about it. They're not in favor of what's going in there, number one. Number two, they're not a big fan of the builder building it. And I've had questions on it. I had one question that came to mind. I don't know if it's the right time to ask that question. What is the longevity when these houses are sold that the residents are going to stay in there for a period of time? I don't know who can answer that. but very important question. I don't know if that's the right fit for Brooklyn. I really don't. I know the legislation is to sell that land and give it to a builder to build, but it's hard for me to vote on something like this when I don't have the support of the city behind me. I don't hear positive comments from residents flying to the microphone saying, this is great. But yet council here, we're saying, hey, it is great, it's great. But I want to hear from the residents that are in the city that are paying the taxes, and that are paying us, to tell me the same thing. And I don't see that. I got calls on the phone, I hear it up here. I hear negative, I don't hear positive. So that's where I have a problem with that. But if somebody can answer the longevity of these residents that are going to buy these townhouses, how long they stay in them, I would appreciate that. And that pretty much concludes my report.
Thank you. I have just a few things. Daylight savings time does end Sunday, November 3rd. So just a reminder that when you change your clocks, please also change the batteries in your smoke detector and your CO detector. Or if you have one of the 10-year devices, make sure you check your dates. We actually had an incident. Our device was installed in 2021, and all of a sudden, about a month ago, it started chirping. So there was a troubleshooting guide. And I did contact First Alert. I just had to give them the model number and the serial number, and they sent me a new one. So make sure you check those dates. And we have actually had a rash of house fires in Brooklyn. So it's very important that everyone have working smoke detectors and CO detectors. So if someone does need one, please contact our fire department. As has been mentioned, last Monday, we did have our first budget meeting for 2025, and the focus was on our capital budget. I'm redundant, but I'm going to thank Director Raguse, the mayor, directors and chiefs. It was a long evening, but we did have a very good discussion, and I know how much work goes into the preparation of all the forecasting and trying to come up with what our priorities are going to be. Just so residents are aware what we discussed at that meeting, we reviewed our 5-year capital improvement plan, the financial forecasts, the 2025 capital budget, the general fund preview and forecast, and then the 2025 general fund budget. Our next budget meeting will be Monday, November 4th at 6 p.m. in the community room, and all are welcome. Regarding the townhomes, as has been mentioned, we have been talking about this and planning for this for quite a while. I have heard positive feedback from residents. I know that there are some people who have concerns, and then there are some people who are opposed, and then there are some people who are actually supportive. This is an opportunity to provide some diversity in the housing that we're able to offer, and I recognize that not everyone is going to be interested in a townhome that has a small yard. But there are people who do not want the kind of maintenance, and not everyone's alike. So that's one of the advantages that we're going to be able to now offer a little bit different, some diversity in the housing that we have. I think that's it on that. Regarding the library, yes, it's going to be very exciting on November 16th. The library, the ribbon cutting will be at 1 o'clock. The library will be open that day from 1 to 5. It is important to know that the existing branch is going to be closed that week before. So Sunday, November 10th at 5 p.m. will be the last day that the library will be open. And then from the 11th to the 15th, everything will be closed. You can still return items, though, in the book drop that will be emptied every single day. And then, of course, we have the grand opening on the 16th. And welcome to our library manager, Mary Schreiber, who's here with us this evening. Thank you for coming. I too would like to thank our veterans for their service to our country. Many of them really sacrificed a lot so that we can have the freedoms that we enjoy. So if you know a veteran, please make sure you say thank you on Veterans Day. That completes my report, and now I'll turn it over to the mayor for his report.
Thank you, Council President. In regard to the new housing, it's very exciting for the city of Brooklyn. The city has been talking about this for at least 5 years. This was a very high priority on the city's master plan that was completed back in 2020. And it's been decades since new housing has been built in the city of Brooklyn. And I would echo what Mrs. Pucci said. There may be some people who this housing is not for them, and that's fine. But there's other demographics of people who it will. For example, I have 2 boys. I would like to have a bigger yard, so this would not appeal to me, but there is a large demographic of people that it would. And so it's very exciting to see Brooklyn moving forward. Again, this has been planned for a long, long time. It took the city many, many years to acquire the properties that are going to be used for this new housing. So I'm very glad that council seems to be supportive of this. Mr. Tansky, as far as the longevity of people living in the homes, that's really up to the people that purchase the homes. They'll be bought and sold just like any other home would be. There's no requirement as to how long someone owns a piece of property. They can live there for 1 year, or they could live there for 30 years. It's completely up to them. It'll be, once it's sold, it's their home. I also want to thank Mr. Raguse. I know he's been spent many time in his team, and I'm on the other side of it now. I sat through many of these council meetings, and now to be able to be on the other side of this, Mr. Raguse does do a really good job, as does his team. And I thank council for attending. It was about a 3-hour meeting, but it's very exciting. So just a couple of the projects that will be taking place this next year, we'll be purchasing a new police vehicle, some new fire equipment, new service vehicles. There'll be a new salt dome for the service garage that will be built. The Veterans Memorial Park will be completely upgraded. The natatorium will be upgraded. We'll continue beautification efforts at the various city entrances. There's actually legislation on tonight's agenda that works on that. We'll be upgrading some security cameras in city building, as well as our street program that we do every single year. We're upgrading some of our signalization in the city, also implementing some traffic calming and continuing to improve our street lighting. And so there's a lot of very exciting things happening in the city. 2024 was a great year with the library going up, and then 2025, that's just going to continue. A lot of work here on Memphis Avenue. So it is very exciting to see a lot of these things that the city has been planning for many, many years starting to come to fruition. One reminder, there is a deer survey that's been out on the city website for the past month or so. We've actually had a large response to that. We've had 400 people respond to that survey. That survey will stay live through the 31st, so I believe that's Thursday. And so I would encourage residents, if they have not participated in that deer survey, if you would please go on the city's website and complete that survey. It just helps us kind of gauge where people are when it comes to the deer in the city. I know we had some, hard to believe this, but attacks earlier this summer with deer, and so we're trying to figure out a way to deal with those issues. In regards to some other upgrades, the police department administration continues to interview for potential new officer hires. The natatorium project, the plan was presented to council at the capital budget work session. That bid will be put together and will be put out to bid next year. And the plan to begin that work on the natatorium, that will take place starting sometime around this year, maybe a little bit earlier. The Memphis Road Diet project is nearly completed. We have chosen a landscaper for the Memphis Road medians. They will begin and complete their work in the coming weeks. As has been mentioned many times, the library is moving forward. November 16th is the ribbon cutting, so looking forward to that. Southwood, which is the last road project of the year, is continuing to move forward. They're supposed to replace the asphalt this week, and hopefully that project will be wrapped up fairly soon. They do have availability to work on that through the end of the year. If you were down at the corner of Memphis and Tiedemann, CEI has finally begun relocating their poles and utilities today. That project has been delayed for months. That is for the turn lane. That will take place in 2025. It will be not quite as extensive as originally planned due to the road diet, but we will still be doing some work down there next year. I want to say thank you to the Recreation Department, Jack, Marie, and Rachel, for their great job they did at the Trick or Treat event at Safety Town this last week. As Mr. Selhertz mentioned, we had about 250 kids. I think there were more than that showed up, but we had a lot of kids and families that came out, and it was beautiful weather. We had a great time, and so thank you, Jack, to you and your team for a great job that you always do with that. This Friday at 8:30 a.m., we'll be holding a special Veterans Day breakfast at the Senior Center. We would encourage veterans to register for that event. That'll take place, again, this Friday, 8:30 a.m. And following that breakfast at 9 a.m. will be the final coffee with the mayor for 2024. And again, that'll take place this weekend, or this Friday. In regards to Ridge Road, Mr. Tansky, I wasn't laughing at what you were saying.
And I'm not here to throw you
Yeah,
underneath
I
the
know.
bus.
I was
It's
just
all
laughing at-
council's problem, what's going on at Ridge.
yeah.
It's all council's problem.
Right. Well, I just thought it was funny. The Ridge Road is not crumbling. I do understand that there may be some crack seal that needs to be done. As always, when you request stuff, I will certainly speak with Mr. Verba and Mr. Henry on that. But we'll get that taken care of. And I believe that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we'll move on to directors' reports, and this evening we have a report from our finance director, Mr. Raguse.
Good evening. Just a review of the general fund financial report for September. Overall revenues are 81% of the estimated amount and 3% more than prior year, driven due to an increase in income tax collections and charges for services. The charges for services increases primarily related to an increase in ambulance service collections. For the commitments, overall commitments are 70% of the budget amount and overall are 10% more when compared to September of last year. The 10% increase is due to wage increases throughout the city, hiring of additional budgeted positions in various departments throughout the city, and also in relation to part-time post salaries. For the income taxes, we have received our distributions from RITA for October. Overall distributions are $1.87 million, $683,000 more than October of last year. Of the $683,000 increase, withholding accounts for a gain of $528,000, which is a portion of that is related to a refund that we issued in October of 23 of $246,000 that we did not issue this year. And also net profits and individuals account for a gain of $155,000. Are there any questions from City Council? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to legislation. Under old business, we have Resolution 2024-16, which is up for third reading and adoption, authorizing the mayor to enter into a real purchase property agreement with Brooklyn Rabbit Run LLC for the sale and purchase of 2 acres of vacant land located at 8707 Memphis Avenue, part of permanent parcel number 432-21-074. And the real property consisting of approximately 1.1 acres of vacant land located on Memphis Avenue, east of North Amber Road, permanent parcel numbers 431-22-001, 002, 003, 004, 006, 007, 008, and 009, and declaring an emergency. Any comments or questions? We need a motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Second.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
No.
Ordinance 2024-17, we're going to hold this. This is amending the planning and zoning code of the codified ordinances of the city of Brooklyn to regulate certain medical marijuana and adult use cannabis facilities in the city. At our last meeting, we did refer this to the Planning Commission, which is a requirement under our new zoning code. They will be meeting next week, and then they will refer it back to us. So we're going to hold off on this one. Ordinance 2024-21, up for second reading, amending section 539.16 of the codified ordinances of the city of Brooklyn to revise the regulations over the use of park and athletic spaces in the city. And this is a substitution that I mentioned before in my earlier report. Ordinance 2024-22, which is up for second reading, amending Chapter 148, Domestic Abuse Commission of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to revise the name, duties, and composition of the commission. And our substitution, I'm going to read what the changes are. And that is in 148.02 under composition. There is a new sentence that reads, "The chief of police shall appoint a representative of the Division of Police to serve as a non-voting liaison to the commission. So if we could have a motion, and then we'll take a vote on the substitution, please.
So moved.
Second.
To accept the substitute legislation, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Stephen Coyle,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
And Mr. Butler, do you think we should take a vote on council for the other substitution, which we already voted on in the committee of the whole?
I don't think that's necessary. There's really just makes public notice of the fact that there's a new version
Thank you.
out there for everyone's consideration. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, Resolution 2024-20, which is up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules. The request to suspend the rules is so that we can get this information down to the county so that they can file the necessary documents so we can have a lien on the property. Assessing unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations of Section 521.14 of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn, Ohio. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-21, up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules. A resolution approving an easement with Walter and Loretta Parker for the installation of a city sign and landscaping improvements on the property located at 7301 Memphis Avenue, permanent parcel 432-25-005. And the request to suspend the rules is so that we're able to move forward with these landscaping and beautification projects. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-22, up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules, approving an easement with Ferris Realty Limited for the installation and maintenance of landscaping improvements on the property located on Memphis Avenue, permanent parcel 431-05-007. And again, the request to suspend the rules is so that we're able to move forward with this project. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-23, and Mr. Raguse, I'd just like a little bit clarification, because I think in your email you mentioned that you wanted this adopted on second reading, and we have it listed for adoption this evening.
Correct. My email was a typo. First reading to be passed tonight, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. With the request to suspend the rules, accepting the medical insurance renewal from Medical Mutual of Ohio, MMO, for medical insurance coverage for eligible employees from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. This is a 3.9%, and that's about $55,000 to $60,000 increase. This is for the health insurance for our employees. And we're suspending the rules because we need to get this in effect for our open enrollment period. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-24, which is on first reading, and ordinance authorizing the capital improvement plan for 2025. The mayor did mention some of the exciting projects. They do total $22 million. I would encourage residents to go on board docs, and you can actually see each of the projects in our capital budget for 2025. Ordinance 2024-25, which is up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules, authorizing the updated capital improvement plan for 2024, and this is that $31,000 increase that I mentioned before to the ice rink capital budget for the balcony restroom renovation, and we need to move forward with this, which is why we're suspending the rules. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
At this time, we'll have our second public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you will be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
He's back. Victor Arditos, 7439 Outlook Avenue. I asked last week and several weeks, I still have not gotten a straight answer. The LED lights, down from me, 2 houses down, you put a nice new arm up with a nice bulb that lights up properly like the old lights. You said you put $60,000 aside for next year. Compared to this 22 point whatever million, it's a drop in the bucket. Are you going to go ahead with the light, with the arm and the bulbs you can actually see? Because I have spoke with people that are sitting there on council that they're a little disappointed in the lights themselves because the sidewalks are so dim. Information in the park, are they going to put down on Springwood and all that? Are they going to put a board up that explains everything to everyone? Regarding to Kevin filling the cracks, I'm right there with them. I was misinformed or misunderstood years ago. I thought we had our old tar machine, but we don't. The reason we can't get a tar machine so the guys can tar the cracks, from what I understand, it's not rocket science. Voting, yeah. Think hard and strong. They're beating each other to death out there. And all of a sudden, the Democrats are saying the same thing the Republicans are going to do. When Biden came in, the Democrats came in, the border was pretty much closed. They got in, it's open like a water tap, like a dam broke. But yeah, we're going to try to fix it. They haven't tried to fix it. They didn't. It was fixed. We're going to open it wide open. Another thing with the weather, the new word the last few years, grapple. What is grapple? They needed a new word for ice or sleet and hail. That worked out good. And okay, Kevin, it's part of the master plan. It's set in granite or plutonium, whatever it is. It's the hardest thing in the world, and I'm not sure if it's available to be adjusted. Thank you.
Cindy Whitey, 4164 Springcrest Drive. Hello again. I just had a question with regard to the survey for the deer. Is that one person per household to fill out that survey? Or like we have 3 people in my home. Can each one of us fill out a survey, or is it limited to just one address per household? That's the only thing I had to ask. Thank you.
Good evening. Bob Huddleston, 8920 Torrance Avenue. every year I get violations. This year I got them from my garbage cans. A couple years ago, I guess I had the mayor's inspector crying and ready to quit because I chewed him out. Well, I'm not here to chew anybody out, but I'm trying to find out. I tried to get clarification on these violations, my lawn furniture, my ventilation systems, the upkeep of my house inside. The pictures that were taken on this violation were taken from behind a neighbor's fence. Now, the inspector says he drives by and finds all the violations. Last time, different administration, the inspectors didn't have time to drive around, okay? But my question is, if the inspector was driving around, why didn't he knock on my door and come and say, hey, we may have issues with your yard, with your garbage cans, which is the big thing. Brooklyn is hard to hide your garbage cans in an open yard. They want them in your backyard, at least behind the rear line of your house, which they are. They're in my driveway, just like everybody else is, all right? But my whole thing is, why did the inspector have to go to a neighbor's yard behind a 6-foot fence? Why didn't he come to my house and knock on my door? The police, just this weekend, come knocking on my door. Hey, I have no clue. Last time I did the right thing and went to the police department to explain something or find something out, I got arrested. I had to go to court because I was assaulted over this 6-foot fence. But again, my question is, I'm not going to complain about anybody, but I just want to know why he, the inspector, didn't come to my house and tell me. That's it. All right? Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? I'm sure the mayor will expand on this, but to answer your question, it is the practice to send a letter when there's violations. Just for your information, anyone who has violations does get a letter in writing, and it's actually better for you to get something in writing than just something verbal. I don't know if the mayor wants to expand on that.
No, that's exactly right. And I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you if you have more questions on that.
I also asked the inspector over the phone, why didn't you look at the past record?
So there isn't a back and forth at this point, but the mayor, and I'm happy to talk with you also if you'd like to discuss it further. Okay, anyone else on council or the mayor have anything?
Sure, I can answer Mrs. Woody's question. Yeah, as many people in your house that want to fill it out is fine. You may have different opinions in that house, but everything is gauged by address. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, the Department of Agriculture is coming in November if the leaves ever fall off the trees to do a survey count. And so they're trying to gather that information of where the deer are. And so that's kind of why we're using this. And so it basically would be one address because that would be obviously everyone living in the same location. Mr. Ardillo, I'll have to talk with you afterwards. I'm not sure what you meant by the stuff at Springwood. We can ask you about that. As far as the arms for the lights go, I don't know the details of that. As I mentioned at the last meeting, when we get closer to that, we can work on that. And then, as I mentioned with Mr. Tansky with the crack ceiling, this is the first I've heard of issues on Ridge Road. I'll be happy to talk with Mr. Verba and Mr. Henry about that. We did do we updated our PCR, which is our pavement, I don't know what the exact terminology is for, the pavement condition, a reevaluation for the year. Ridge Road is rated as good. In fact, 50% plus of our streets in our city are rated that way. But I will talk with them if they need to be crack sealed on that as well. And then I'll be happy to talk with you afterwards if you want to sit down and talk about those violations. I don't know every single circumstance that comes across the building department's desk, but I'd be happy to talk with you about that.
Mayor, with the arm length on the utility poles, I think I mentioned that like 3-4 months ago already. I've talked with our rep from First Energy. They're using the short arms and everything else we do. So that's already a given 3-4 months ago. I don't know, it didn't sink in or supposedly.
They're using the brighter bulb.
Depends on the location. I'm not going to get street by street light bulb light pole by light pole with you.
Okay, and I believe Springwood, he's referring to Markward. So if your question is about the signage on the changes, whoops, sorry, that was the 5-minute timer for speaker. The new signs that it's a tow-away zone on all 3 of those streets are already up. So those are up. And then I would imagine, once the legislation's adopted, where someone would need a permit for exclusive use, we will have some sort of indication. So, okay, anything else?
I got one thing.
Yes.
Mayor, it's not, the road is chipping up here and there, and if I gotta get pictures, I will, but I don't wanna have to go that route, but if I will, have to, I will. Maintenance of a road that's put in, and if you look at the other cities, they are not crack sealing because they have extra money and they would like to blow it. They are crack sealing to maintain the road so it doesn't come to that point, so we have longevity to it, so we don't have to rip it up again and resurface it. That's what I'm getting at.
Right, and I understand that. And like I said, this is the first I've heard of the issues with Ridge Road. And like I have done with all the rest of them, I will speak with Mr. Verba and Mr. Henry to get it rectified.
Do we have, we don't have a crack sealing machine, we're renting it, aren't we? Would it be, and I brought this up before, and I did bring it up with Andy a long time ago, to purchase one? Can we look into it on what it would be to purchase one of those versus borrowing it from wherever we're borrowing it from? Because we will use it. I mean, these roads have to be done. We're resurfacing and repaving a lot of our roads. The maintenance has to be right behind it continuously, otherwise we're going to be taking them all up again. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
To adjourn, Sue Grodick. Yes. Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Thank you.